That was, well, I mean, so what I did when I got this back from him was I changed the language pertaining to insurance that I'd suggested to him yesterday that he agreed to take away the specifics and simply say that the insurance would be provided in a form and under conditions acceptable to the parish attorney, which is the way, that's common what we put in agreements that pass through this commission body anyway. Okay. I don't know if that's acceptable to y'all or not, but I'll just tell you on the record that that I would not find anything to be acceptable that wasn't at least this much insurance that they've already provided. It is my position now that the self-retained limit needs to be not more than $100,000.
But when was that put in? Today?
Last night.
Last night, okay.
Modified. It was modified this morning.
Okay. Now, let's see, in this email I received, it was sent at 6:29 last night, it says, I advised Chesapeake representatives that we wanted them to strongly consider agreeing to such a system for all wells. Now, we're not talking about but one well, aren't we, in there?
We're talking about the closed loop system, Commissioner Lynn talked about. It's one platform that will support a number of wells. So that's why.
Okay, so it's one platform.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, in reference, are you familiar with the legal situation with the Wynn property? Who is they say litigation, is it between Mr. Wynn and Chesapeake, or is it an L situation? What's the problem there?
First time I heard of it was today, Commissioner.
Okay, I remember when we took our tour out there, I was under the impression that that things were going well with Mr. Wynn during my tour. I thought everything was squared away on that end. I didn't know that there was any kind of problem there. My concern is this thing has constantly been moving and changing and moving and changing, and I just don't believe that we've given our citizens an opportunity to really look at other alternatives. It appears as though for some reason, and I'm hearing that the Parks and Recreation Department or the Parish suggested this route or whatever, that this is one situation that we just locked into and we just came with tunnel vision right on that, and we didn't look at an alternative. But I think it's very important. And I feel for those people in Spring Ridge. I went out there and I toured it, and I agree with Mr. Lynn wholeheartedly. They are definitely put in between a rock and a hard place. And I think all because we acted out of haste. And I have a question also. We have a number of parks in the northern part of the parish. Is there to be any drill in there? Have we looked at that? What's going to happen? Are we going to set a precedent? I would love to see, as the gentleman from New Zealand came down, and the notoriety that Eddie Jones Motorbike Park has internationally, that one day we may have a motocross meet that rivals the magnitude of the Bassmasters. But I just cannot go with this, is how I feel with the residents of Spring Ridge. And guess what? I got some residents that in my district off 169, I just received a petition. They said, we do not want them coming down our street. I got a petition. I've been talking to Mr. Glass about it. So the thing is, I think we should have been a little more proactive. I think we should have stepped back and we should have looked at a lot more avenues. We should have involved the community more. And what I'm hearing, it just appears that we got locked in with tunnel vision for one thing, and we just stayed with it. And I cannot support that. Even though it may be an inconvenience for a little while longer to the residents of Spring Ridge, I feel for them, but at this point in time, I cannot vote to go along with that. Thank you.
Let me just interject here, and I'll talk later, but as the president of the commission, I just want to let my colleagues know, depending on how this goes today, that I'm willing to call any special meeting or anything that needs to be done if we need some additional time. Not to prolong this out or let it get stretched out, but I'll do whatever we need to do to facilitate expeditious resolution. Commissioner Cox.
knowing some of the people that live out in the Spring Ridge area, I've followed this from the word from y'all's first complaint. I understand that a decision needs to be made today for you, the taxpayers. Okay? As I was coming up and down I-20 a couple of weeks ago, Chesapeake was in Fort Worth. And Chimp Haven is worried about the chimps and how that would affect them and how it would affect not only the chimps but their environment and stuff like that. We're going down I-20 in Fort Worth, West Fort Worth. There's a high school, and I've made this statement before. There's a rig between, I'm not sure if it's Chesapeake, it could be anybody, but there is a rig between I-20, the baseball field, of that school. And I don't think it's affected those kids one bit. Okay? I'm not saying the chimps are not worth it. We have a beautiful facility. We know it. We support it. But when it comes to a decision like this, I think if you want to come back and after this decision is made, and if the decision is made today to go forward, which I am going to vote to go forward, is that you get with Chesapeake or whoever for a buffer, a bigger buffer. From what I understand, the chimps location is about 300 feet from this road, which you have buffer of woods, brush between that and the chimps. So there can be something done there. That's, to me, that's not a problem. Chimp Haven is a fine facility, and it will keep growing. The park itself, the bike riders, from what I understand, it seems like the only bike riders that are here from Bossier. So we understand that the park has a special place in it for everybody, whether you're camping, whether you're biking, or whatever. But you have to look at the reality of the situation. The gentleman that came up and made a remark about the cemetery, I really do not like that remark. In my eyes, you slapped the veterans who are laid to rest there in the face. And that was wrong. I would ask my other commissioners today to pass this, get it moving, simply because we are behind on anything moving forward. Bossier has already had 2 public hearings on their ordinances. We haven't had a first one. We have had people ask us questions over the last month and a half on this specific pad. And then today, everybody wants to come up with a new idea. A day late and a dollar short is what I say. We have a plan on the books. Let's go with that plan. Let's help Spring Ridge out. Get the park done, get the pad done, and that way everybody will be happy. Not everybody's going to be happy, though. In any situation, in any decision that we make up here, 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to be unhappy. But that's why we're elected officials. We have to make the hard decisions. So, in closing, I would just say I'm going to support the ordinance as is and ask that my other commissioners do as well. Thank you. Madam President.
Commissioner Baker?
Thank you, Madam President. I, too, like Commissioner Cox, agree that, first of all, true enough, we are in a position where we have to make a very hard decision, but my thoughts here today are for the people. And the people of Spring Ridge, they are the true victims here. Yes, true enough, I am a park lover. I love parks. I love riding bikes. And, of course, Chimp Haven, you know, we supported you from the very beginning up until now, and will continue to support you. But what I'm asking us to look at here on this board and our colleagues is to look at who the true victims are. And the true victims are, just like Commissioner Cox said, the taxpayers, the ones who are electing us to actually serve them and serve them in the way that they expect us to serve them and look out for their well-beings. The bicycle riders and the chimps don't have to contend with the 24-hour noise And especially, I have 3 granddaughters that are 4 and 2 and 6 months old, and they don't have to contend with maybe one of their children getting hit by a diesel truck. They don't have to contend with all those things that are making their homes be not what they were when they first moved there was their homes. And it's putting them in such an inconvenience, not just so many hours a day, but as the young lady said at first, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So what I'm asking, true enough, we've had a whole lot of changes in both of these agreements, in the subsurface agreement and also in the easement agreement. But those changes were made, and they came from us as the commission board. We were the ones asking for those changes, and we're the reason why those changes were made in both of those agreements. And when we have a work session on Monday, and we ask for something else, and we got a regular session on Thursdays, yeah, it's a possibility that we might get an agreement this Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning that we have to look at and make a decision on at 3:30 on Thursday afternoon. So I'm asking my colleagues, and I am in support of voting for this ordinance and going forward with it, as Commissioner Cox says, and I'm asking my colleagues to just really take a look at who the real victims are. The real victims are the people who live in the Spring Ridge subdivision. They're the victims. Thank you.
Commissioner Escaday?
I think several people have hit it on the head. This is a very difficult situation. It brings out people's emotions. No matter how well intended, and everybody believes their position is the right position, and they tend to vehemently argue their position and sometimes embellish some of the facts and details to make that position known. Mr. Epperson, I think, put it real well that we're between a rock and a hard place. This is bad timing. The reason we're here today is because I think, as Commissioner Cox pointed out, is you know, we all should take fault. We have drug our feet on preparing our ordinances along the same guidelines that Bossier Parish is doing to decide what it is we want when we drill, not just in our parks but in our parish, because we get hung up with this information that the State Department of Natural Resources is coming up with their own. Well, you know, we can come up, we don't have to wait on them, and I don't think Bossier's waiting on them. And if we'd have been meeting regularly and done this and had this in place, we'd have ordinances that address this issue. But this issue is a little bit different, and it was coming down even faster. This Haynesville Shale is a new thing. It hit us all fast. Nobody knew anything about it or anticipated it. So the bottom line is, it doesn't matter whether it's Chesapeake, and there's some people here obviously just can't stand Chesapeake, but let's make it X, Y, Z, all company. I don't care who it is. I don't know anybody from Chesapeake. You know, I don't care anything about them. I don't care what you name it. They have a road, and they have access to use that road right now. What they're talking about is furthering that access and improving it. So they're going to use it, or what part of it's theirs already, whether or not we let them do this today. And if we don't let them do this today and say, go back to the drawing board, find another plan, they're going to keep going right through Spring Ridge subdivision, and they're going to say, forget all of it. And that's how they're going to proceed. And they don't need a new plan. And they can inconvenience those people for the next 90, 120 days, because they can do it. They've bent over backwards and met every accommodation we've asked them. I know this, you all know this. As late as Monday in our work session, our committee meetings, we're asking for further consideration, which Mr. Grubb works on with them, and we all knew about this. But then in the interim, we have one individual on this body who decides he's got something he personally likes, and without getting the concurrence and majority opinion of this body or that committee, decides he wants to make it happen. Then he wants to criticize the people involved because they didn't react to it. Well, the proper way to do that is to have an amendment to this ordinance today if you want to change it. But all the other details were agreed upon and worked, and on behalf of us, our parish attorney has taken care of it. Maybe if you learn a little bit more how government works, we would have these problems. Get our ordinances in check. Instead of calling people names and accusing them of being evil or thieves, I don't care how coded or subverted. These people out here have a problem, and there's nothing more important than human beings and children. People that use the park, that's real good. You know, it's kind of like It's a great park. And if you're going through it on a bike trail and you have to go through a road that's been cut through, oh my God, what is that, a 5-second inconvenience or a blip on the radar depending on how fast you're traveling? Unless you're up in a helicopter and have an aerial view of the thing, how are you going to know that road's there? I don't know how it really impacts the integrity and the beauty and the pristineness of the whole park unless you're sitting there from the heavens looking down at it. I've gone to plenty of parks. They have trails, natural, unnatural. Mother Nature made them, man made them. It doesn't, you know, you're walking through, it doesn't hurt anything. But here's where we get emotion and passion run amok. And then lastly, I do know that if this was disturbing the veteran cemetery in any way, I'd have a big problem with it, but it's not. We're going to inconvenience the people that use the park. We're going to inconvenience our good friends at Chimp Haven. And by the way, just as a side note, yeah, they own that land. They own that land as long as there's Chimp Haven. The day they don't have Chimp Haven anymore, that land goes back to the people at Caddo Parish. I was here and I know it. Okay? That's a fact. What also is a fact is that I looked at a copy of an email sent from an official at Chimp Haven to an official at Chesapeake dated July 28th, 2008, which is almost a year ago, acknowledging a follow-up on a meeting where they had discussed what we're talking about today. So for them to come here and say they barely had any knowledge of it, shake your head all you want, I know what I see. Anyway, it's wrong. Excuse me. You've had your chance. Anyway, pardon me?
John.
Let's go.
I'll get a deputy. Okay. Anybody else can come up here and say what else they want and we don't react? Okay. So all I'm saying is emotion runs, truth sometimes gets stretched, but I'll put the needs of children, citizens, any day over a 90-day inconvenience that we're talking about here, maybe 120 days. Everything will go back to normal and then that park will be right. That park's an asset. That park was used and developed by this body to be a benefit to the citizens. It's an asset to the citizens, and now it's got something under the ground that's worth money to the citizens of this parish. And once we start realizing that all revenue, we'll have plenty of money to do whatever we want to do, improve that park in any way we see fit. So it's a tough situation. We can ignore it. We can tell Chesapeake, you go back to the drawing board on your plans and your roads, and guess what? They don't have to do a thing. They'll continue cutting through that subdivision. They'll go out there, they'll drill that, and nothing will change, and we've wasted all our time. And that's within their rights. And they've been over backwards to be good citizens. So yeah, it's a bad day to have to make a decision. It's a tough day to make a decision. We can delay it, and roll the dice and see what happens. I'm not going to delay it. I don't want to delay this decision. Let's give them people some relief. 120 days, all this stuff will be over. We'll get that park back to normal, you know, and things will be right. But the bigger issue is we need to get off of our rears and get our oil and gas ordinances passed and not worry about what the State Department of Natural Conservation is doing. We'll do our own thing. Let them follow our lead. Thank you.
Commissioner Dominique?
I got a question for Larry Raymond. One of the gentlemen proposed some alternative routes through the park, and I know Mr. McCotter said one of them was unavailable because of the veteran cemetery. What about the other one? It was kind of...
Well, we actually looked at all of the proposed routes through the park, and we seriously looked at the asphalt road. The veteran cemetery was one of the issues. Anywhere that road goes, we're going to impact somebody in that park. But the veteran cemetery, because of the funerals, and actually in December of last year they had 19 funerals. They average about 12 or 13 a month. The other issue with the road is that's the same road that the visitors to the park use.
Gotcha.
The same asphalt road. So there you're putting the 18-wheelers and the people in their cars, you know, using that same road, and that was an issue. The road behind the veteran cemetery is owned by the State Department of Veterans Affairs now. You know, that's part of the veteran cemetery, so that really doesn't involve the parish. That would have to be the state that would be involved in that, you know, unless they did it off on the private property north of there.
Okay. That's the only questions I had for you, and I would, you go ahead and kind of say it. We've had a lot of discussions, and a lot of people made some good points. But I tend to agree with Commissioner Cox, Escaday, and Commissioner Baker. I think this has gone on long enough. I think that our Park and Recreations Department, which I truly trust, have looked at all the alternatives, that he has said to us that if it was up to him, we would not have a road through the park, but when you have the situation at hand, this is the place that it's going to minimize the damages or the activities to the different entities and the different individuals, and this was the one that was recommended to us. We have met several times, numerous times, the Natural Resource Committee. We've discussed these issues over and over and over. I look and see people like Deborah O'Connell, who brings our little children here, and I think we've got to get something done for those people out there in the subdivision. They have had enough. Commissioner Escudé has made the point that I've said over and over and over. If we don't do something, then Chesapeake is just going to throw their hands up and they're going to walk away and they're going to say, look, we'll just continue to use that and go through that subdivision and go where we want to, and we're not going to have any leverage whatsoever because we do have the no surface agreement, and that's really all we have. But they have worked, from what I've seen, and bent over backwards to meet our demands, and I think we need to go forward and urge our commissioners at this time to vote in favor of this ordinance also.
Commissioner McCullough?
I won't be but a minute. As a commissioner, usually when things occur in my district, and I share with my colleagues how I feel about certain issues, I kind of expect my colleagues to support my ideas for the constituents whom I represent. And I'm very empathetic for the bikers. I love biking myself. I haven't ridden the bike lately. But I mean, I like the idea of bikers. I blow up the bikers when I see them on the highways because I respect the biking. I love the chimpanzees, especially the babies. Of course, the chimpanzees that are at the Chimp Haven are retired chimps in comparison to newborn babies, toddlers, toddlers, children, human beings. And I guess what I want to really say is I like the idea when other commissioners respect how I feel about certain issues that involve my district. And in talking with, although he's not here, in observing and talking with the representative of the citizens that are residing in Spring Ridge, it appears that this has beat him down because of his concern for the families and how the families are being affected. You know, I'm a family person. I have children. I look forward to grandchildren. I love babies. Ever since I've heard this baby curl over here, I've been wanting to go get it, you know. So I empathize, most of all for children, because I love children. But I also want you to know that I feel and empathize with my colleague as well, although he's not here. I know that this has really been burdensome for him. And because I know he's concerned about the families, I'm going to support this ordinance today because I'd like to see these families rescued as soon as possible. Thank you.
Commissioner Lynn?
Has there been any police protection on that street as far as shooting radar? I know that the neighbors talked about speeding. I was asking, do you know? Mr. Wilson, would you ask the sheriff to put someone out there with a radar gun? I mean, they're obviously the victims, and they're a victim of some company. That's all.
Well, I just have a question here, because I guess I really didn't see this as an either-or proposition, the ordinances that are before us today. I thought the rigs had come out of Spring Ridge when they came out a couple of weeks ago, maybe 10 days ago or something. We were advised that they had come out, Mr. Grubb. They had completed
The
the
two
well.
drilling rigs that were on the pad, yes, ma'am, they have come out.
Okay, so what is the discussion that we're having about some continued traffic going through that neighborhood?
Well, I mean, they can speak to it better than I
Okay,
can, but I
well, okay.
understand, but
That's fine. Let me get somebody that can help me. Gentleman in the white shirt. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna remember your name. Come up to the mic, sir, because I want to make sure I understand this.
The traffic situation that, and the goings-on that have been talked about here and how you all agree that it's terrible is an understatement. It is beyond that. And it has not, they have pulled out 2 rigs, as I understand. I don't know the ins and outs of the oil business. They have shut down those 2, pulled them out, but there is 10 more to take their place. And as we speak, not only has Chesapeake been a big problem with the in and out taking care of their business, now we're inundated by hordes of heavy equipment fixing the road, keeping it patched. They actually come in at 6 this morning, I think it was 6, somewhere around 6:30, with dump trucks full of gravel, just to patch the road, knowing that there's going to be some heavy equipment coming in, of which this morning probably 20 trucks have come in. So it took me 5 minutes to get out of my driveway to make this meeting. And, you know, so just because Chesapeake has pulled out, do not get the idea that it's over with. They'll be back with other wells, and as I understand it, Chesapeake has all the legal right to continue doing just exactly what they're doing. If they want to throw a shoe in things, it is my understanding that they can say, look, we've done what we can do, now sue us. We're going to come in here, we've got the paperwork, we've got the right, we've got the permits. That's my understanding. And I think everybody that I associate with in the neighborhood feel the same way, that if Chesapeake wants to, they can continue just what they're doing and tell everybody to stick in their ear.
Okay, thank you.
So,
McCotter, what else are you all doing in Spring Ridge State on those roads over there, and what else,
Right.
what's happening?
Commissioner, beginning last Thursday, and then in this past Sunday, we moved the 2 drilling rigs that had drilled the Brian Wallace wells. Now, the next process will be the completion of those wells. And that's a process that usually takes 3 weeks to prepare. There's a week of hydraulic stimulation that takes place. Then there's the cleanup of the well, and the gas goes to market. So if we were allowed to start on this road tomorrow and then complete by no later than May 1st, all of that completions traffic associated with just these 2 wells would be able to use the new route that would come through off of 789 in the southern section of the park following the old construction road. That's in the agreement. That was one of the items that Attorney Grubb asked us to agree to, and that was to complete that portion of the road by May 1st. And that's certainly doable, given the fact that we would start tomorrow. And I'd like to just go back, and Commissioner Lynn asked a great question the other day about that closed-loop system.
Hold on, Mr. McCotter,
Sure.
let me, because I don't want you to miss my train of thought up here. Okay, thank you. Charles, is this, let's see, when it says now therefore, is this the part he's talking about that's got this last sentence here as additional
Which
consideration?
agreement are you on, Commissioner?
I'm hoping this is the last one. This is a surface and subsurface
Okay.
agreement. The paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, the last sentence, as additional consideration,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
operator will abandon access to any sites through Spring Ridge by no later than May 1st. So what happens between now and May 1st?
Well, between now and May 1st, they continue to use the road.
Okay.
The other one built.
So you all will continue to work going in and out?
We'll start building the road immediately, the new road.
Start building.
Whatever activity that we have associated with getting prepared for the completions process, then we wouldn't have any choice but to use the existing route through Spring Ridge. My suggestion to you is that as soon as we're able to start, which would be this weekend, then we have a shot to get that road completed prior to May 1st. As soon as it's completed, then the bulk of that completions project traffic would be able to use the new route. We would be totally out of Spring Ridge subdivision.
I mean, you run at a pretty close period of time where all of this is going to happen. Even if you start tomorrow, by May 1st, you're talking another 2.5 weeks.
Correct.
It takes you 3 weeks to come back, to do your additional operations. I mean, so they may, if it doesn't rain, if this doesn't happen, if this doesn't happen, if this doesn't happen, they may only get a couple of days relief in actuality, potentially.
Yes, ma'am, but we've committed to have that road complete to do what it takes by no later than May 1st.
Okay.
Depending on the availability of equipment required for the completions process, I'm not sure when exactly that process would start. It may be a couple of weeks from now.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Madam President, may I address the closed loop question just real quick?
No.
Thank you.
Let me go to page 3, Attorney Gluck. I'm still on the subsurface agreement.
Yes, ma'am.
Where it starts talking about the environmental liabilities and the policy. Was this language changed in a revised draft, or are these figures here $1 million per occurrence with no more than a $10,000 deductible? Is that?
I did this on purpose to keep from having confusion, but on your desk is a copy of this agreement on short paper.
And I have a short one of the easement, but I don't think I have a short one of this.
Well, I'm sure.
I may have misplaced it. Oh, okay, well, let me look. Yeah,
And, Madam President, if you look at that same paragraph, that's what I'd addressed earlier that I did change this morning.
but let me ask, what was the issue there?
The issue there was in
They
the
couldn't
earlier,
agree to.
in the earlier draft, after some consultation, I believe with Mr. Frazier, we decided to put in a minimum requirement. This is all based upon the conversation that went around this table Monday. We decided to put a minimum requirement of insurance on them of $1 million with a low deductible. And and of course to make the parish an additional insured on the policies. And as I said earlier, I have in my hand certificates of insurance naming the parish as additional insured, basically for $6 million worth of insurance, so the coverage is good. However, as I've indicated earlier, I'm not comfortable with the $1 million retained limit. That means, in effect, that Chesapeake would be on the hook first for the first $1 million. And so I did propose to him this morning that retained limit be decreased. In fact, I proposed $100,000. They haven't gotten back with me on that yet, and for that reason, I put the language that you see in this version of the agreement, Commissioner, which basically says in amounts and with conditions acceptable to the parish attorney. And I will tell y'all on the record that the insurance that I would approve would be for these limits that we already have. And my position at this time is that the retained limit needs to be decreased.
Okay, so read this to me with the amounts that you recommend. It says in an amount.
I had originally recommended coverage of $1 million with a retained limit of $10,000.
Okay.
This is an arbitrary thing.
Right.
And as I say, they've come back with much more coverage than that, and the hang-up is over the retained limit.
Okay, what's the retained limit on that certificate?
The retained limit on the certificates is $1 million.
Oh, okay. Okay, now, is that a $1 million policy with $5 million excess, or is it $6 million?
It's $1 million coverage with $1 million retained limit. So the point is the $1 million coverage would kick in at $1,001, and then there's a $5 million excess policy on top of that $1 million.
So, do you think they're going to change their retain limit because we want them to?
Well, a very brief amount of time will tell, Commissioner. As you've heard, they've been receptive to a request that we've made in the past, and I personally think that this is a reasonable request to make. I know Mr. Frazier thinks it's a reasonable request to make, but unless they're prepared to get up and say something right now, we're just waiting to hear from them.
Are you all prepared to address that?
We will meet the request.
Okay, of a smaller, what was the amount were you recommending?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
What amount were you recommending on the retain?
$100,000 retain limit.
Okay. So you all will do that. All righty, let me make sure I have it right. Let me ask about the closed loop. Now we can talk about that. Was that something that you all were open to look to doing?
Yes, Madam President, and after Commissioner Lynn raised that question in the work session Monday night, I went back to my engineering team, and then we did receive an official communication from Attorney Grubb asking that question, but it wasn't proposed as a proposal as part of the agreement. So it's my misinterpretation then that it wasn't being proposed as part of the agreement. It was simply asking the question. So thanks to Commissioner Lynn for asking that question, because it really provided a good opportunity for us to take another look at our project. And yes, sir, we are using a closed loop system for the horizontal drilling portion of the well. And I believe from an environmental perspective, that provides the best protection to the park, to the users, to the residents of the area. A closed loop system will provide the receptacle and the recycling of any drilling mud or drilling effluents that are used in the horizontal well bore. As Attorney Grubb stated earlier, the vertical portion of the well bore is strictly water and cuttings that are, I guess for lack of a better term, I consider native mud. So only native mud and only water goes into the reserve pit. And so you asked great hypothetical questions earlier. What if there's an overflow? There's no contaminated water or no contaminated cuttings in that pit. It's all of the native mud that comes up from that vertical well bore. When we get into that horizontal well bore, that 4,000 or 5,000 feet, then the drilling mud, the drilling effluents are recycled in the closed loop system. We think, Commissioners, that provides the best balance in operating a horizontal well. If I were to use a closed loop system for all of the flow back and all of the effluents, then you increase significantly the truck traffic, because everything has to be contained and hauled off and disposed of in accordance with state and federal law.
Okay, let me ask you this. You're saying that you all will do that on this particular?
Yes, ma'am. We will use a closed loop system in the horizontal portion of the drilling.
Okay. What about on the Bryan well wells? Was that a different process?
No, ma'am. We use closed loop there as well in the horizontal portion.
Okay. Thank you.
So the only water and cuttings that are in an open pit are what we would consider to be native mud. It's the actual drill cuttings that come up from the earth. Then there's water that's used in the drilling process. Any drilling mud or drilling effluents are used in this closed loop system. So we think it's a great way to balance from an environmental perspective and then minimize that truck traffic that would be required to otherwise haul off the pit, the water that would be used in the reserve pit.
Okay, thank you. Attorney Grubb, where would that go in this agreement if we were to add that in here?
Well, I can't tell you off the top of my head where I put it in, Commissioner, but I can tell you that if they've agreed to do the closed-loop system, and there's a term of art for it, I forget what it is, but I'd get it right, we put it in the, for the horizontal portion of the drilling, we put it in an appropriate place.
Okay. Thank you. Commissioner Lynn.
That's it, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Cox, please.
Call for the question.
Second.
Still early.
Okay, that passes. Vote. This is on subsurface agreement. That passes. Next item, Mrs. Spears.
Wait a minute, just hold on, Madam President. My vote didn't show up.
I'm sorry.
Vote yes.
Okay. Next item, Mr. Spears.
Okay. Let's see here. That would be the related ordinance, ordinance 4871, authorize easement right-of-way agreement for Louisiana Midstream Gas Services.
Second. Moved by Commissioner Escaday, second by Commissioner McCullough. Any discussion? I'm assuming these are from the last. Commissioner Thibodeau?
That's from the last.
Okay. Commissioner Jenkins?
That was from the last one also.
Okay. Please vote. That passes. Next item.
Yes. Okay, next you have zoning ordinances for introduction. First one, zoning case P3, Dollar General is the Jefferson Page Road is the applicant appellate. Request for approval of site plan property B2 district, southeast of Pines Road. MPC denied that request. The applicant is appealing. We'll hear that April 23rd. Next one also is zoning case SP6. James and Sarah Price of the applicant appellate request to rezone property southeast of intersection of Jefferson Page Road for a proposed Dollar General store. That's Washington Planning Commission denied that request. Both are related. Hearing on both on April 23rd. Next, you do have a zoning ordinance for introduction. That's ordinance 4873. It's zoning case P4. Aramco Inc. is the applicant requesting to rezone property east side of Norris Ferry Road. It's urban loop from RA to B2 for proposed B2 development. Zoning case P5. That's ordinance 4874. Calvary Baptist Church is the applicant requesting to rezone property southeast corner of Linwood and McCary from RA to R3 for proposed adult living facility. Next, you have regular ordinances for introduction. Ordinance 4876 relocates the polling place for precinct 146 from Deep South Gift Shop in Myra to the Ida Community Center in Ida. Ordinance 4878 declares certain adjudicated property to be surplus and authorizes sale of tax interest. Do not have the work session minutes.
Okay. Resolution.
Resolution 8 declares the mission, purpose, and function of the Caddo Parish Juvenile Detention Facility.
Moved by Commissioner Lynn, second by Commissioner Escaday. Any discussion? Please vote.
Wake up, Matthew.
That passes. Next item.
Yeah, Resolution 9 authorizes the Community Action Agency to administer the Head Start program for the parish.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Baker, second by Commissioner Cox. Any discussion? Please vote. passes. Next item.
No old business on the agenda. New business is confirmed, authorized administrator to get a written proposal from Grayson Bear Architects plus 2 other companies on the cost to perform a scope of work for a needs and assessment plan for the future growth of Caddo detention. So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Dominique, second by Commissioner Lynn. Any discussion? Please vote. That passes. Next item.
Acceptance of the Louisiana compliance questionnaire is required by the legislative auditor. So moved. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Escaday, second by Commissioner Everson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Move for Joe.
Meeting's adjourned. Said they said local. We were ending.